You only need to know me. I will be the one.
Mu. Never before has a name evoked such terror from me when reading a story. Well, with one exception. If you were going to write the devil into a story, how would you do it? How would you capture and portray the essence of the devil that people feel in their day-to-day lives? How would you draw him, the ultimate evil, the darkness, formless, like a shadow? What emotions would you want to draw out from the viewer? Fear, disbelief. We see Imu as a flat, fairly featureless individual, apparently capable of shape-shifting based on the recent chapter, both two-dimensional and three-dimensional, maybe even capable of looking one-dimensional and entering dimensions beyond, existing on a higher or lower plane, traversing all things, everywhere at once as a god should be, or a devil that became God. Imagine telling your friends that this story, episode in Chapter 1 of One Piece, is not really a pirate story, but a story questioning what if the devil defeated God. Absolutely mind-blowing. This is Ichiro Oda's story, the greatest story ever told in my opinion. What the world might look like if the devil became God. Maybe. Who knows for sure what Imu exactly is. For this video I'm going to blow your mind though with two pieces of information and heavy research behind them. Hopefully others don't beat me to it. I'm trying to get this video out by Monday after the release of chapter 1085. We will cover Imu's devil fruit power or identity, as well as the true significance of the name Mu. Mu is a Buddhist term that essentially means nothingness or fundamentally not one thing. Maybe Imu's design is nothingness, darkness, a living shadow, a specter or spirit ebbing and flowing between worlds, an immortal king. Mu in Buddhism is regarded as the state where absolutely no things or phenomena exist. In Zen Buddhism, Mu is the pure state of consciousness before any experiences or knowledge has been acquired. From what I read online, I also see that there is a Japanese magazine named Mu Plus that is about UFOs, unexplainable events, and supernatural powers. Maybe this is connected. Imu's name has already been tied to the Buddha in the past, and coincidentally I read that nothingness and Buddhahood are similar, and that even the way Imu speaks of himself as Mu in the third person adheres to the notion that enlightenment, Buddhahood, is not one person or thing or the other, nor is it only found in one particular place or state of awareness. It is all existence. The lesson of the Mu of Zen is that the pronouns me, my, and mine are unlimited, unreasonable, and ultimately, in truth, nonsense. There is no you. There is only the world. You are nothing. Mu can also mean dream and vision, and if Imu has or was the sea devil, then perhaps the creation of devil fruits from people's dreams is connected here. Something else that comes to mind when I think of Mu is the word Mugen, a word of Japanese origin meaning dream, fantasy, or infinite, infinity, endless, which does tie into what was said during Skypiea in relation to Varth, Fairy Varth, and the endless land. The red line that Imu sits upon stretches forever. It is seemingly endless, wrapping around the One Piece world. When Imu speaks of Mu, it is in reference to his or herself in the third person. I saw online that sometimes this is done by those displaying their authority and that the discussion is not open to debate as exemplified by Imu speaking to King Cobra. Imu was having none of Cobra's nonsense. But Mu is seen in the name Imu. If you remove Mu, the M and the U, all you are left with is I. I is in me. And so I am one person. Mu is another. So maybe Imu is more than one person. Maybe sometimes Imu speaks in the first person, and so the letter I, as in I am speaking now, whereas Mu is speaking on this particular occasion. This might tie into what others are also saying about Blackbeard being more than one person too. That it's not he, but they, them. Imagine Blackbeard meeting Luffy again and saying something similar to Kaido, When Kaido said to Gear 5 Luffy, "Who exactly are you?" as if to imply Luffy was another person too. Maybe Blackbeard will understand and acknowledge the other entity in Luffy that Kaido could sense. Maybe Imu-sama will do so as well. The return of Joy Boy might be literal if Joy Boy's presence is a part of Luffy's devil fruit power. Just like Blackbeard might have a similar situation going on, and it could be the same for Imu as well. There are two different Imus maybe. One personality is Imu, the other is Mu, or maybe multiple people in one body somehow, all coexisting in the void. But this could be wrong. It's just fun to speculate. And so we've established that Imu's other name, Mu, might be based on a Japanese kanji character Mu. This name or word appears elsewhere, even in another famous manga series called Death Note. Mu, or nothingness, is a concept in the Death Note series explaining that all humans, without exception, will eventually die and cease to exist, describing the fact that there is no afterlife in the story. Kara wields the Death Note and uses a pen to write in names and kill people, deleting them from existence. Interesting then that the first attack associated with Imu is a pen as well that is used to mark an X on a map, and thereafter use a devil fruit ability or the ancient weapon Uranus to erase an entire island and its people from existence. The Japanese mangaka and creator of Death Note is Tsugumi Oba. Tsugumi once said, "For me, one of the premises of the series is that once a person died, they could never come back to life. I really wanted to set a rule that bringing characters back to life is cheating. That's why death equals nothingness. If I had to choose a theme to express throughout the series, I'd say humans will all eventually die and never come back to life. So let's give it our all while we're still alive." Death equating to nothingness. Could Imu be the god of death? Death, nothingness, the void, either one of these things. After all, Enel does equate the overarching fear of death to that ultimate fear being God. Death is a god. It rules and has extraordinary domain over our lives as we do everything we can to ensure we don't die. Interesting that Luffy is not afraid to die and has even said he will decide the time and manner of his own death. And further interesting that a man only dies when they are forgotten. If you forget someone, they then never existed. This is the same as death, and some even argue that when you die, you enter the void, a state of limbo, nothing. You disappear. So to recap, the wiki for Death Note mentions a chapter number where it is explained that there are rules regarding Mu. Number 1, all humans will, without exception, eventually die. And number 2, after they die, the place they go is Mu, nothingness, the void. And number 3, once dead, they can never come back to life. Now, what's also interesting about the concept of Mu is that the meaning of Mu has been assessed to imply that all humans, regardless of their actions during life, simply cease to exist upon dying and are equal in death. These rules are applied to all humans, since justice is a theme attributed to not just the Marines, but also Cypherpol agents like Rob Lucci, and even pirates is alluded to by Blackbeard recently. Then maybe Imu has his own sense of justice, based on the meaning of Mu. In Zen Buddhism it is said, Mu is an answer to a question that depends on invalid axioms. When the rule states the place they go, it's Mu. It means the question relies on a invalid assumption. They don't go anywhere because there is nowhere for them to go to. And so when I think about the bridge that is being built, the Tequila Wolf Bridge that seems so important to be built, that the world government has immorally relied on slave labor to complete its construction. Clearly this bridge wouldn't be built unless Imu said so and gave the okay. This bridge wouldn't be constructed without Imu's approval, but why does Imu want to build it? It's interesting when we see this bridge as a bridge to nowhere, so to speak. A bridge headed into the void. Imagine if there was some island or location Imu was trying to reach that constantly disappeared. That once you left it, you could never find it again. Maybe a bridge is needed to permanently have access to its location, whereas finding it by sea travel, by sailing, would be difficult. Maybe it's a bridge to Laugh Tale, another island that many questioned if it really existed either until Roger discovered it and named it to become the Pirate King. Speaking of lost or erased islands like God Valley and Laugh Tale, or lost and erased kingdoms like the Ancient Kingdom, this is going to blow your mind. There's a mythical lost continent called Mu, introduced by Augustus Le Plongeon, who lived between 1825 and 1908, who identified the land of Mu with Atlantis. Yes, you heard that right, the lost kingdom of Atlantis. The name Mu was subsequently identified with the hypothetical land of Lemuria by James Churchward, who asserted that it was located in the Pacific Ocean before its destruction. The place of Mu in both pseudoscience and fantasy fiction is discussed in detail in a book called Lost Continents by L. Sprague de Camp. Geologists dismiss the existence of Mu and the lost continent of Atlantis as physically impossible, as a continent can neither sink nor be destroyed in the short period of time as has been asserted in legends and folklore and literature about these places. Mu's existence is considered to have no factual basis, but in One Piece, Mu appears to be Imu's other name, another person or at least another name that Imu goes by, a lost continent, forgotten land. When we tie into Kila Wolf Bridge, the lost ancient kingdom, and God Valley and Laugh Tale, it can't just be a coincidence. The lost continent of Mu, known as the motherland of men. It is claimed that this forgotten land of Mu was the common origin of the great civilizations of Egypt, Greece, Central America, India, Burma, and others, and was in particular the source of ancient megalithic architecture. As evidence for his claims, he pointed to symbols from throughout the world, in which he saw common themes of birds, the relation of the earth and the sky, and especially the sun. Churchward claimed that the king of the ancient kingdom, Mu, was named Ra, and he related this to the Egyptian god of the sun, Ra. He claimed to have found symbols of the sun in Egypt, Babylonia, Peru, and all ancient lands and countries. It was a universal symbol, and originated from the lost continent of Mu, a land that had been submerged by a catastrophe, a land that had not yet been visited by the wrath of humans, whose destruction by earthquakes and submergence was recorded by Plato. Perhaps Blackbeard, given his darkness and earthquake abilities, is the return of a prior evil that threatened the world in the past. Or maybe it's Imu. Another claimed that the civilization of ancient Egypt was founded by Queen Mu, a refugee from the ancient land's demise. Other refugees supposedly fled to Central America and became the Maya. Of course, this is all speculation by adventurers, archaeologists, and some scholars. It's also insane when you realize that investigators found out about this land by studying ancient stone tablets that were from there, kind of like the poneglyphs in One Piece that reveal the true history and the name of the ancient kingdom, as well as the location of Laugh Tale. Apparently the stone tablets begin by first describing the creation of planet Earth, Mu, and a superior human civilization. There is even a book called The Petroglyphs of Mu, which sounds like the poneglyphs of Mu. Apparently some of these glyphs, poneglyphs or otherwise, would show that different parts of the world were once closely connected, or one landmass. I also just realized something mind-blowing about the empty throne. It isn't really empty, and not in the way that you're thinking. We were told that no one, nobody, nothing is supposed to sit there. Nothing. Again, nothing is supposed to sit there, and nothing is. For Imu is nothing, as his appearance conveys and his alternative name reveals. The Void Century. Imu also goes by Mu, which means nothingness, or in other words, void. Now, the Void Century connection comes from Parvision. I'm sure you know who he is, who predicted Imu would be the Void, or named Void. But what do you guys think about the idea I just put together? Nothing sitting on the empty throne. Emptiness. Mu also means the absence of something, and so black absorbs all light. Imu's color scheme is pitch black. Imu is the absence of light, and so the light that should truly be sitting on the empty throne is no longer there, fitting for someone like Imu that goes around erasing metaphorical light from around the world. So if Imu is the sea devil, what powers should Imu have? I would imagine powers centered around water, the devil, and the darkness of the sea. And while it's possible Imu is not the sea devil that is said to have created devil fruits, let's dive in and consider some of the possibilities of Imu's identity and abilities, while keeping in mind that Oda often uses multiple sources of inspiration when crafting the perfect character. I dropped 2 videos about Imu as the devil and the role of the devil in One Piece, and I don't want to repeat what I said here, so just watch those videos after this if you want. But essentially, the devil was jealous of and disagreed with God, and after a failed rebellion, the devil was cast down from heaven. But it seems like Oda's story has flipped things upside down. Turned the world upside down, as Roger once said. It needs to be flipped upside down again to restore things to the rightful place, to restore whoever is truly supposed to sit on the empty throne. But the devil, considering Imu and shadows, did you know that the devil is associated with shadows? There's a passage referring to the shadow. It apparently comes from the book of Matthew. It says that after his baptism, Jesus is led into the desert by the Holy Spirit to be tempted by the devil. After praying with his eyes closed in the desert, after opening his eyes, Jesus saw it, a shadow, as if someone was standing behind him. He looked over his shoulder to see who was there, but the shadow shifted, darting from side to side. Jesus nodded to himself. He knew who was with him, the tempter, the great deceiver, the devil, the angel who had tried to take God's place and had fallen from heaven. It seems like the shadow, the devil, attempts to trick Jesus with deceit, lies and illusions, false realities, just like what Imu has done to the world. And who knows what we were exactly seeing after Sabo used his fire attack to light up the shadows of the gorosei and reveal their demonic forms. Could have partially been an illusion, or were we witnessing the devil's demons, other fallen angels that betrayed God or Joy Boy, or whoever in the past? Sabo even mentions after attacking the gorosei that he would never have imagined that hell existed at the top of the world, the Holy Land, which is essentially situated as heaven, and so hell's demons and the devil, the gorosei and Imu, have taken over God's land. Going back to the shadow from the book of Matthew, as Jesus overcomes each of the shadows or devil's trials, the shadow continuously grows bigger and angrier, until at some point becoming so large as if it was trying to cover the whole world in darkness, it is said, promising the world to those that would betray God and bow down and worship the shadow, the devil. This notion of the world being shrouded in darkness, blocking out the light, like a solar eclipse, the light of the sun. It reminds me of what Nico Robin said about being hunted down endlessly, how no matter what sea or ocean she goes to, there is a great foe that she cannot escape. Robin's enemy is the world and its darkness. And notice how the words world and darkness are put in quotes as if a metaphor for something or someone else. Maybe Imu is the world and Blackbeard is its darkness. Or maybe Imu is both and represents the darkness of this world and serves as the shadow that follows Robin and the Straw Hats wherever they go. Those shadows, even in the Florian Triangle, are still a mystery. But in terms of the Sea Devil and a potential water-related ability, Imu to Umi, and so Umi Bozu. Imu's shadowy figure when he transforms in chapter 1085 could potentially resemble an Umi Bozu, which is a paranormal phenomena or yokai from the Japanese folklore, also considered a sea priest. There are calm seas that quickly turn tumultuous when the Umibozu will attack sailors and destroy their ships. The sea hating sailors ties into Mother Nature. The sea in One Piece hating devil fruit abilities. When thinking about Mu and its connection to the void century and nothingness, what if the void is depicted by the darkness of the sea, bottomless oceans where much of history has been lost to over time, sunken ships and land masses, with Imu as the king of shadows and another as the king of light, maybe Joy Boy. Think of Joy Boy Luffy as the sun god and how the only thing really tying him to the sun is his fire or Red Hawk abilities, which aside from friction, rubber burning as it moves at high speeds. These Red Hawk abilities have little to no real explanation. So Imu's abilities, or devil fruit, might be related to both water and shadows if the bottomless sea is what Oda intends to depict the void. Unless the void itself is Imu's ability, we still need an answer as to what destroyed Luzia Kingdom. What happened to it exactly? Imu seems to be tied to that as well somehow, like God Valley. Islands simply made to disappear. Nothingness. The void. The darkness of the ocean when you dive deep. Could it be that Imu is either erasing these islands and people entirely, or simply sinking them to the bottom of the ocean floor? If Imu or Mu can erase things, then the poneglyphs being preserved, even the road poneglyphs, maybe it's to find an island that Mu tried to erase. Mu seems unable to erase the poneglyphs for some reason and unable to fully erase history. Why are the poneglyphs indestructible? But Impel Down is based on Dante's Inferno, which ties into the devil, and so being sent to Impel Down is like being sent to hell, and curiously, Impel Down is submerged underwater, the underwater prison. As if the devil and hell reside in the sea, at the bottom of the sea, in the waters below. And in terms of Mu and the void, erasing things from history and existence entirely, there are prisoners residing at level 6 of Impel Down called Eternal Hell, Mugen Jigoku. The lowest level of Impel Down, again, Mugen, Infinity, which is close to Mu, the infinite or endless void. The prisoners on this level have been given either the death penalty or a life sentence. These level 6 prisoners are said in chapter 576 to be basically erased from history for their wrongs, sent to the void, removed from the rest of the world. Again, it's interesting that this erasure occurs underwater in the underwater prison, at its lowest level, sent to the bottom of the sea. And so the Sea Devil, the Devil in Oda's story, when I think about the powers of a devil that would parallel Luffy, I think of how Luffy's rubber always bounces back. Joy Boy possibly promised to return and one day defeat the king of the world, Imu. Thus Joy Boy's broken promise. In that way, Luffy or Joy Boy has bounced back across hundreds of years to take Imu down. Kind of like those cartoons where that pesky little threat keeps on coming back for more. And so Luffy Gear 5, Joy Boy being cartoonish, fits the endless harassment of King Imu perfectly. Especially if Imu is a cartoonish devil to match Gear 5's energy. Given how cartoons have metaphysical, reality-bending powers as exemplified by Gear 5 Luffy, it's worth noting that the real-life devil of the Bible, or the devil as portrayed in works of fiction, is depicted as a shapeshifter, and so the devil can take on many forms. On the screen you can see various cartoon characters that are devils or were inspired by the devil to an extent. Some have the power to shapeshift. Their abilities are metaphysical, as in transcending physical matter and the laws of nature, defying and breaking reality. This will likely be the battle between Gear 5 Luffy and Imu, one a cartoonish god, the other a cartoonish devil. Sunlight versus the sea's darkness, and so the world's darkness. Dreams versus nightmares. Elastic rubber versus manipulative shadows. Fire versus water. One of these outcomes is likely. Aku from Samurai Jack is another cartoon devil apparently capable of shapeshifting. Aku who is also flat and formless at times. Aku translates to evil, and what's interesting is Aku wanted to rule the world as the almighty being. It is said that Aku was born from the black mass of darkness as an evil, shape-shifting demon who took over the world and ruled it for countless eons, and ultimately a man from the past travels into the future to defeat him. In terms of the name Imu, the king of the world, Imu's name is sometimes pronounced by fans as Im-sama, or Im, which sounds a lot like him from the Powerpuff Girls, for those of you who know what that is. This devil character him can also shapeshift, so when Imu says Mu will address you now, again, could Imu be more than one person as well? Aside from shapeshifting, could we be experiencing personality shifts from Imu? Just as Imu appears to have more than one name or identity in him given his name Mu, the devil is said to have also gone by many names, and it seems each name of the devil might be tied to a different personality. The devil is known as Lucifer for pride, Satan for wrath, and Leviathan for envy, and there are other names I think, or at least they're tied to the 7 princes or demons of hell and the 7 deadly sins. The devil is also called the Prince of Darkness. In one of my Imu is the Devil videos, I point out that the devil is also known as the Great Red Dragon, an old serpent. I wonder if this is tied to the giants of Elbaf being unable to cut down the red serpent soaked in blood, alluding to the red line maybe, which alludes to the world serpent in various mythologies. And so the red line and the divine dragon statue, the divine dragon claw monument portray Imu as a great red dragon maybe, a devil surrounding and ensnaring the world, maybe a shadow dragon, or a shadow that can transform and shift into dragon form. Note that oftentimes a big catastrophe is attached to defeating major villains in One Piece, be it Noah's Ark falling on Fishman Island, or be it the birdcage of Dressrosa closing in, or be it Onigashima floating over and about to fall on the country of Wano and its flower capital. And so maybe Imu's defeat will coincide with the destruction of the Red Line, the defeat of the world serpent, the devil that is the king of the world. Now, as for erasing things, the power to erase, erasing islands, sending islands to the void, and parallels between the darkness of Imu and the darkness of Blackbeard. Imu is a void, so Imu is neither light nor dark, I guess. Or something darker than darkness, which would be nothing or nothingness for darkness, is still something. Again, the very notion of nothing is difficult for human minds to grasp. The ultimate unknown. The ability to make things simply disappear. A power that might even surpass Kuma's pawpaw fruit, that kind of makes you disappear when in reality you have been sent to another place. That's all. Or Lady Toki sending you to another place and time. Or Blackbeard's darkness swallowing you whole, leaving nothing behind, but still, you remain somewhere in the darkness. On the other hand, Imu, or at the very least, Mu, is the void. Nothing. If Imu has a power of the void, emptiness, to erase things from existence, given Luffy is the sun god, could there be a moon god and is Blackbeard? If so, could Imu be the void, the darkness, the dark emptiness of outer space, a vacuum? Now it's time we talk about something that I saw many discussing in the comment section from my other video and on Twitter, and that is Spirited Away. There's a character, an antagonist in that show called No Face, or the Faceless One. A dark spirit who resembles a black humanoid shadow being with a white mask. He devours other spirits and can absorb their emotions into his own soul. No Face is shown to be capable of reacting to emotions and ingesting other individuals in order to gain their personality and physical traits. And there is a theory that is spreading like wildfire that may be Imu, since Imu refers to himself in the third person as Mu, and Cobra mentions Imu, being the name of one of the 20 kings in the past. There is a theory that maybe Imu is somehow composed of or absorbed the former kings into himself as one entity. And so, that would mean that Imu has many other names besides Mu. The void is all-consuming, bottomless, empty. Returning to Spirited Away, exposed to the corruptive thoughts and greed of those around him, No Face quickly grew to encompass their personalities, becoming extremely volatile and as monstrous, a monstrous out-of-control being. No Face in this moment exhibits all the negative traits of those he had swallowed, becoming a brash, arrogant, loud, and selfish creature. Could this be Imu? Just like the devil fruits are a product of people's dreams. What if Imu, or the other entity Mu, is born from the emptiness of the human soul or humanity? Or as some have argued, born from the void or darkness of our hearts. Some have even argued Imu and the gorosei have devil fruit powers born from nightmares instead of dreams. Based on Imu and the gorosei's transformations and appearance in this panel as they pursue Sabo, they might have devil fruits born from nightmares instead of dreams. And maybe Blackbeard acquired a similar devil fruit somehow, and that's why he cannot sleep. He has nightmares. Because if he does, he'll have nightmares. Even before getting the Yami Yami no Mi, which might also be a corrupted devil fruit, or one born from nightmares. This would also align with what Imu said about people not fearing God, but instead fear itself is God. Imu is the embodiment maybe of nightmares and our fears, our greatest fears and human failings. The dark shadows that haunt our lives that manifest what we call the devil. In Spirited Away, No Face had the following abilities. Mimicry. Whenever he eats another being, he uses its voice and abilities and takes on their personality. alchemy. No-Face can transform one thing into another. He can consume and absorb anything. He can shapeshift and perform other magical feats. I would also add that Spirited Away sounds like erasing something, so that it's as if it never existed, made to disappear. After some research, I found this. In English, to spirit away means to remove without anyone's noticing. In Japanese folklore, spiriting away is stated in Japanese as kamikakushi to mean hidden by kami, hidden away by God. It refers to the mysterious disappearance or death of a person after they have angered the gods, kami. There are numerous legends of humans being abducted to the spirit world by God. For example, in the Bible, I think someone named Enoch is referenced as being no more, for God took him. He was spirited away, erased. Someone named Elijah disappears when a chariot of fire appears and is taken up to heaven in a whirlwind. And of course, the apocalypse and end of times often describes people being spirited away, disappearing. In the Japanese classic film, Goyoken, by Hideo Gosha, Kamikakushi is mentioned after the inhabitants of a small fighting village all mysteriously vanish. And as for the anime film Spirited Away, the main protagonist is spirited away from reality to the spirit world. This is interesting because Vegapunk tells us that devil fruit eaters exist on a whole other realm or plane, and so other realms exist beyond the one we currently see, in another dimension that interacts with ours in a way. What if that's what the void could be? What if Luffy's final battle with Imu takes place in the void, the spirit realm, where neither of them have to hold back? No-Face is an original character created by Hayao Miyazaki that previously didn't exist in Japanese mythology, it is said. Once Miyazaki explained No-Face's presence by saying, "When I'm not around, the producers apparently tell everyone No-Face is Miyazaki's alter ego." Yet, even without getting intellectual about it, I think there's probably a bit of No-Face in all of us. He later elaborated, "There are no faces all around us, because there's only a paper-thin difference between evil spirits and gods. No-Face is just a name and a mask, and other than that we don't really know what he's thinking or what he wants to do. We just named him No-Face because his expression never changes, that's all. But I do think there are people like him everywhere. People who want to glom onto someone, latch onto someone, but have no sense of self." No-Face's physical appearance is taken from the Bombyx mori, a silkworm that turns into a silk moth. Notice Imu in the garden with butterflies or moths. The character designer Masashi Ando elaborated, "No-Face is basically expressionless, but I ended up adding just a tiny bit of expression. No-Face swallows the bathhouse workers, and I thought it might have been interesting if he acquired their personalities and ability to reason. This way he becomes more human and appealing." And so comparing this to Imu, you have to wonder if Imu has become more human as the story progresses. The more we see of Imu, the more the silhouette is revealed. Maybe one day the sun god Luffy will shine a light on the nothingness of Imu. Just as Sabo's fire attack exposed Imu and the gorosei for the shadow-like figures that they are, Luffy bringing the light to expose Imu would make a lot of sense. Perhaps the Void Century never ended, if present realities remain untrue. This distortion of truth in history can only be overcome by cleansing the shadows and defeating the world's king, defeating Imu, defeating Mu. Now, I had something written up as a joke about Zoro and which nothing moment is greater now. The Imu reveal of 1085, where nothing happened and Zoro taking Luffy's pain in an arc defined by shadows. And then I realized Zoro's master once told him that there are swordsmen in this world that have the power to cut nothing, the void, that which isn't there. If you can cut nothing, I'm sure you can punch it too. But as usual, we will have to wait and see. Don't forget to like the video, comment with your thoughts below, share this with your friends, and subscribe. Also click the notification bell. And if you have a Twitter account, feel free to give me a follow on Twitter as well. I'm always sure to try and like, retweet, or respond to your questions. And also make sure to check out that second One Piece channel on the screen that I promised I'd be dropping videos for based on your theories and comments in June. As always, there is more to come. Until next time.